This course is mostly for Mac users because we're building an iOS application and we need the Xcode program to do that. All instructions in this course will assume a Mac environment. However, we'll also build an Android application, and it's totally possible to do that on Windows. The instructions to set up an Android environment on Windows can be found on the React Native website. If you only have a Windows machine, you can somehow follow what we'll do in this course, but many parts of the course will be irrelevant to you. You can also follow the course by using this Expo client as well. I am developing this course on macOS High Sierra, which is the latest version right now. If you're on a version of macOS that's before macOS Sierra, I'd recommend updating that first. If you're in a higher version, you should be okay, hopefully. In all cases, you should at least update your copy of Xcode. I developed this course on Xcode version 9. If you don't have Xcode installed, pause the video now and get it done. You can install Xcode through the Mac App Store application. When you first launch Xcode after installing it, it's going to take some time to install some components. Let that finish. Another thing that you need from Xcode is the command line developer tools. So usually this should be installed already, but to make sure you can use Xcode select -- install, and you get this window that the command requires the command line developer tools. We'll go ahead and install that. Once that is done, if you repeat this command, it should say command line tools are already installed. If you want to do Android development, you need a recent version of the Java SDK. If you run the command java c-version, that command should report the version installed. If Java C does not exist, it will prompt you to install a JDK. If you simply Google for Java JDK, you can download it directly from oracle.com. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for Mac. If the Java C command did not work for you, you need to do this step as well. Okay, so I got my JDK installed. Make sure that works for you. Once you have the JDK installed, we need to download and install Android Studio. Go to the first result for Google search and download and install it here. The reason we're installing Android Studio is because it comes with the Android SDK, and it's also the easiest way to install an emulator for Android. The first time you launch Android Studio, it will ask you a few questions. So I don't have a previous version of Studio, and I'm going to quickly walk you through the installation here. So choose a custom installation, not the standard installation. And I definitely like the darker themes. So make sure that the performance checkbox here is checked, and also make sure the Android virtual device checkbox is checked as well. Click next a few times and click finish. When the installer is done, you should see this Welcome to Android Studio screen. Go ahead and click on Configure and pick SDK Manager. And you should notice that by default, it installs part of the Android 8 SDK. But to work with React Native right now, we need the Android 6 SDK. So I'll go ahead and show package detail and go to Android 6 Marshmallow and make sure the following checkboxes are checked. So we need Google APIs. We need Android SDK Platform 23. We also need this one, Intel 64 system image, and also the Google APIs 64 system image. Have all of these checked and click apply. You'll probably need to accept some licenses and proceed with the installation. When that command is done, go ahead and open up Preferences and go to the SDK. Make sure it says installed here. I want to grab this SDK path here and make it part of our OS path. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the .pash profile file, which is in the home directory. If this doesn't exist, just create one. And in here, we need to export Android home. And that's the value that we just copied from Android Studio. And we need to add to path two other things. So path equal, we start with the current path. And then we add $Android home, the variable that we just defined, and /tools. We also need to add platform-tools as well. So add to the current path the /tools and /platform tools from the Android home, and go ahead and test that. Save, open up a new terminal, make sure that you can run the ADB command without any problems. Of course, you also need Node itself, and I don't have it installed here on this fresh install of macOS. So there are a few ways you can install Node in Mac, but the preferred way is to use Homebrew. If you don't have Homebrew installed, you can just grab this command and copy it as is, and it uses the Ruby language, and Ruby comes pre-installed with macOS. And once you have Homebrew installed, you should have the brew command in the path. If you already have Homebrew, make sure it's up to date. We want to install two things right now from Homebrew. So brew install Node and also install Watchman. Watchman is a recommended tool to have when working with React Native. React Native uses that to watch changes in the file system. Let's make sure we have Node version. So the latest version as of now is 8.6. So make sure your version of Node is at least that. And also npm, which is at 5.3. I also always upgrade npm itself using this command, npm install -g npm. So the latest npm version as of now is 5.4.2. You also need an iOS developer's account to push your finished iOS apps to the App Store. It's currently priced at $99 per year. Google's Play Store also requires a one-time registration fee, which is currently priced at $25 to create a developer account that can release apps. That's it. We're ready to start a Hello React Native project now and test it on both iOS and Android.